On his first day at a new job, Ethan felt a mixture of excitement and anxiety. The city was buzzing with life, the office was sleek and modern, and the team seemed friendly enough, yet something felt off. As he walked into the conference room for his first meeting, he noticed that everyone already had their own tasks to focus on, each engrossed in their own screens or conversations. Ethan, still fresh and eager, felt like an outsider. He had come in with high expectations, thinking he could prove himself quickly and impress everyone with his ideas. But as the day wore on, he found himself second-guessing his every move. The work seemed more complex than he had anticipated, and his attempts to contribute felt out of place. Around noon, Ethan found himself in the break room, staring at the menu board and wishing for a moment of clarity. He grabbed a cup of tea and went to sit by the window, hoping to collect his thoughts. Just as he sat down, an older colleague named Mrs. Lee, whom he had seen around but hadn't spoken to, approached him. "Mind if I sit with you?" she asked with a warm smile. "Of course," Ethan replied, feeling a little relieved by her presence. As they sat together, sipping their tea, Mrs. Lee looked at him thoughtfully. "I've noticed you seem a bit tense today. Your mind appears full of thoughts." Ethan chuckled nervously. "It's just the first day. I want to make a good impression, but everything feels so overwhelming." Mrs. Lee nodded, her expression understanding. "You know, I used to feel the same way when I started. But I learned something from a Zen master that changed everything for me." She leaned back in her chair, taking a slow sip from her tea. "Let me tell you a story." Ethan leaned forward, intrigued. There was once a young student who went to a Zen master for guidance. He was full of questions, full of ideas, and filled with energy. He asked the master, "How can I become wise, like you?" The Zen master invited him to tea and began pouring. He poured the tea into the student's cup until it was overflowing, but the master kept pouring. "Stop," the student cried. "The cup is full. It will spill over." The master paused, looked at the student, and said, "Your mind is like this cup. It is already full of your thoughts, your judgments, and your preconceptions. Until you empty it, I cannot fill it with anything new." Ethan stared at her, processing the words. Mrs. Lee smiled. "In your eagerness to impress, your mind is full. You have so many ideas, but sometimes, you need to empty your cup, your expectations, your doubts, your assumptions, so you can truly listen and learn." Ethan looked down at his cup, now half empty, as if it were a symbol of what he needed to do with his own mind. He had come in today filled with ambition, striving to be seen, to be acknowledged. But perhaps, he realized, there was wisdom in taking a step back, in letting go of the pressure to perform. Only then could he make space for new insights, fresh ideas, and a clearer sense of self. "Thank you, Mrs. Lee," he said, smiling. "I think I've been trying to fill my cup too quickly." She nodded. "Remember, it's not about how much you know, but about how much you're willing to let go of to grow." Ethan felt a weight lift off his shoulders as he finished his tea. The afternoon ahead no longer seemed as daunting. He didn't need to have all the answers right away. He could be patient, open, and present in the moment, learning bit by bit, without forcing it. For the first time that day, he took a deep breath and smiled to himself. The journey, after all, was as important as the destination. Core lesson: sometimes, in our rush to succeed and prove ourselves, we forget that true growth comes from emptying our minds, letting go of our attachments, and being open to new possibilities.